Hashtag Trending would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular, in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/HTT. Sundar Pichai says AI could one day replace him. OpenAI plans to double their staff. Cursor has an awkward moment when a developer discovers it's built on a Chinese open source model, and AI protesters march on OpenAI and Anthropic in San Francisco as increasing numbers sign up to oppose AI. Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Sundar Pichai believes that AI could one day replace him, or so he said in a recent interview that goes right to the heart of a growing question in tech. If AI can gather, analyze data, and make decisions, what exactly is it that leadership does? Pichai isn't the only one to be working himself out of a job. Sam Altman said he would be nothing but enthusiastic if AI became a better CEO than he is. And Sebastian Siemiatkowski, co-founder and CEO of Swedish fintech giant Klarna, wrote that AI is capable of doing all our jobs, my own included. The one outlier, Jensen, Huang, pushed back hard, calling the idea that AI could take his job an absolute non-starter, and arguing that large-scale replacement of workers is still a long way off. But while these folks are speculating, Mark Zuckerberg is already testing how far AI can go. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, Zuckerberg is working on an AI agent designed to help him with the job of CEO, effectively creating a system that can assist with high-level decision-making across the company. At a company with roughly 78,000 employees, management itself could become a challenge. Layers form, information gets filtered, and silos emerge. And that's where this shifts. Even if AI may not replace the CEO, it could give them something they've never really had: a direct, unfiltered view of the business combined with an objective decision support capability. The ability to flatten the organization, eliminate silos, and make decisions based on shared, objective data has been the holy grail of management for decades. If AI can deliver that, CEOs may not be replaced by it, but it will certainly redefine their role. In what might seem as the ultimate irony, OpenAI, the company that many feel may be eliminating their job, is planning to nearly double its workforce, growing from about 4,500 employees to roughly 8,000 by year-end, according to a report from the Financial Times. That would work out to about a dozen new hires every single day. And this is a move driven by competition. Rivals like Anthropic and Google are gaining ground, and OpenAI's early lead is under pressure. In fact, data from payments firm Ramp, based on more than 50,000 customers, claims new enterprise buyers are choosing Anthropic at a rate of 3 times the rate of OpenAI. A claim OpenAI strongly disputes, and an OpenAI spokesperson called the methodology insane, arguing that large enterprise contracts wouldn't show up in credit card data. Many CIOs, including myself when I was doing that, wish that this were true. And these same CIOs also know that the entry to a company in the age of SaaS is often a handful of players who get the product and buy it on their credit card. But despite the denials, OpenAI is clearly putting effort into corporate sales and says it will ramp up roles it calls technical ambassadors, specialists embedded directly inside customer organizations to help them get more value from its tools. Both OpenAI and Anthropic are building these forward-deployed engineering teams to deepen enterprise relationships and turn AI into something customers can actually use. So, irony is not dead after all. Or maybe this is where those new jobs some say AI will create will come from, helping organizations understand it, trust it, and actually put it to work. But it's hard to believe that companies are going to spend all this money with no ROI, And that ROI, all too often in a corporate sense, is fewer people doing more. Well, this is a bit embarrassing. Cursor, widely seen as a leader in AI-powered development tools, launched what it described as a breakthrough coding model, Composer 2, on March 19th. But within 24 hours, a developer digging into the API response spotted something unexpected. The underlying model appeared to be Kimi K2.5 from Moonshot AI. From there, the internet did what the internet does. The model ID was exposed, the connection spread quickly, and questions and confusion followed. Moonshot actually initially accused Cursor of violating the Kimi license before later confirming it was, in fact, an authorized partnership. Cursor's co-founder, Aman Sanger, acknowledged the misstep, saying, "It was a miss to not mention the Kimi base in our blog from the start. We'll fix that for the next model." And the company says it built on Kimi after evaluating models for performance, then added further pre-training and reinforcement learning on top. Cursor's developer relations team also moved quickly to address the concern. Spokesperson Lee Robinson said, "I am a big believer in open source, especially as AI improves," and confirmed the company was operating under a commercial agreement through Fireworks AI. Moonshot itself, a little later, congratulated Cursor, calling Kimi a proud foundation and noting that Cursor's additional training accounted for the majority of the compute. I love it when everybody sings Kumbaya. But the issue here isn't the technology. It's how it was presented. Composer 2 was introduced as a breakthrough, but without clearly explaining what it was built on. And that matters because Kimi is not just another model. It's one of the most capable systems available, known for massive context windows, multimodal capabilities, and efficient mixture of experts architecture. And this might help make the picture clearer. Cursor is now a company with roughly $1 billion in revenue, a valuation approaching $30 billion, and about $2.5 billion in investor funding behind it. And it's made a case that it's added real value on top of Kimi, which is good because astute investors might start asking harder questions. How much of that value is proprietary? How much depends on the open models? Are there any conditions in the licensing that might, in effect, give away some of Cursor's intellectual property? For those familiar with open source licensing, these are just some of the important questions that all too many people ignore to their peril. So those questions and more will become even more pointed as open source and open weight models, many of them from China, are now among the most widely downloaded and used in North America. And in a market that is already worrying about whether AI can justify its valuations and the billions that have been invested, this is not a small concern, especially if those billions are being invested to compete in a space where some of the underlying technology is available for free. And finally, hundreds of protesters gathered outside the San Francisco offices of OpenAI and Anthropic on March 22nd, calling for a slowdown in the rapid development of AI systems. The debate over artificial intelligence is no longer happening just in boardrooms or research labs or on podcasts. It's spilling into the streets. Two groups were prominent in the organization of this protest. One, called Quit GPT, we've done stories on them, drew about 1.5 million commitments in its first 48 hours back in early March. A commitment is not that they'll drop ChatGPT, although some of them will, but it's also anything that they do, including posting support online. But that number has grown in just a few weeks to roughly 4 million. Another group, Pause AI, is pushing for a pause on the development of more advanced systems until safety can be demonstrated and oversight is in place. Pause AI was founded in May 2023 in Utrecht, Netherlands by software entrepreneur Joep Mendersma, who left his CEO role over concerns about AI extinction risks influenced by Nick Bostrom's work, Superintelligence. The movement has since spread internationally, calling for a global AI safety body and agreements similar to arms control treaties. All of this creates a new kind of pressure. As companies race to build more powerful systems, they're no longer competing with each other or answering just to regulators. They're facing coordinated public resistance, and that may turn out to be one of the harder challenges to manage. And that's our show. Once again, we'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers full-stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. Working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity in a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, build the software, manage deployments, and even run support. It's a single integrated solution that scales from branch offices to warehouses and large campuses to data centers. Book a demo at meter.com/HTT. That's meter.com/HTT. And while we're at it, could we ask all of you to maybe make a commitment? Introduce the podcast to someone new? Put a review in Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcast places. A 5-star review in Apple goes a long way to promoting our show. If you would, that'd be great. And even if you don't, I'm your host, Jim Love. You can still have a terrific Tuesday.